How San Francisco will change once it reopens. What up, YouTube? It's your boy Jermaine back with another video. This video, let's talk about San Francisco. Let's talk about some of the things that will change when San Francisco opens back up. If you guys are new to my channel, my name is Jermaine. I live in San Francisco. I am a world traveler. I am on my way to trying to travel to 100 countries, but I'm stuck in San Francisco right now because we are in a pandemic. And if you are new to my channel, I want you to hit that subscribe button. But right now, let's just talk about San Francisco and some of the things that will possibly change when the city reopens. We're going to talk about some things that I'm noticing going on in other places that have already sort of went through what San Francisco is going through now, but they've already went through it. And we're going to look at places like New York, and we're also going to make some predictions and some guesses, and yeah. Anyway, let's get this video started. So first off, we gotta ask ourselves this question. Is San Francisco ready to be opened up? Okay. Now on the surface, it may seem like, yeah, let's open the city. But then let's just think about this really fast. Okay, so first off, let's look at New York. New York is very, very, very densely populated, and New York happens to be the COVID-19 epicenter of the world. All right. Now, what are some of the similarities that New York and San Francisco have? They're kind of similar cities. I wouldn't say that they're exactly the same. San Francisco has a lot of similarities to New York, but I wouldn't exactly compare them, but they are very similar versus other cities in the US. Now, one thing about New York versus San Francisco, and this is sort of an advantage that San Francisco has, New York has a much larger population, and New Yorkers tend to congregate more. The subways are more packed. Just walking around New York, there's just more people. It's just much more crowded than San Francisco, and a lot of people live in New York City. You take a place like San Francisco, a lot of people live in San Francisco, but on a normal day, you have a lot of people to come from other parts of the Bay Area to San Francisco. Now, it's the same way in New York. You have a lot of people that, go from Brooklyn, and they go to Manhattan. They go from the Bronx, they go to Manhattan. But then on a normal day, there's so many people in Manhattan that it's just way more people in Manhattan versus San Francisco, like way more people. And also another thing about San Francisco, if you're in downtown, Soma, the financial district, the TL, Union Square, if you're in these densely populated areas, yeah, it's crowded, right? There's lots of action, it's crowded. But once you leave downtown and you go to places like Twin Peaks or the Outer Sunset or the Richmond, it's not even like the same city. It's more like everything's just really, really flat. So I kind of say that San Francisco kind of has a little advantage because it's not like the same type of city as New York. You don't have people as on top of each other. And then you also have a lot of people coming to the city to work every day. And as of now, there's not a lot of people coming to the city to work every day because everything's closed down. But I'm talking to my friends in New York, and they're like, yeah, man, it's crazy busy. Like getting on the subway, like all the trains are packed. Now here in San Francisco, we have a much smaller city, we have Muni, and Muni has underground trains. And to help stop the spread, the city have closed all the Muni underground trains. Now, you can still take the BART underground trains. Now, the BART trains they go outside of the city. The Muni trains stay within San Francisco. So they've closed down all the Muni trains to stop the spread. And the BART trains, they haven't closed them down, but they've reduced the number of BART trains. And I haven't taken BART since this whole thing started. I haven't left the city since this whole thing started. I kind of need to go to Oakland, but I really don't want to take BART. I'm just really crossing my fingers that they will eventually close a lane on the bridge and we can just ride our bikes from San Francisco to Oakland. I'm really, really hoping that will happen very soon. This is a rumor that I hear, but I don't want to spread any rumors here, but this is something that I hear that could possibly happen. But yeah, So as of now, San Francisco has been closed for 49 days. The first day of the shelter in place started on March the 16th, and we have just been sheltering in place ever since. Now, how will we open back up? So San Francisco was the first, pretty much the first city in the US to go on lockdown. And then after we went on lockdown or shelter in place, the governor of California just put the whole state on shelter in place. And as of now, we're going to shelter in place until the end of May. And as of the making of this video, today is May the 3rd. So we have, I'm just checking out my calendar here. Yeah, we have weeks. Yeah, about 4 weeks to go. Yeah, 4 weeks from today will be the 31st of May. And will they extend things? We'll have to find out. There is one stipulation when it comes to extending. Now, based on CDC guidelines, once a location or a certain area have seen their hospitalization rates go down for 14 days, they can begin the slow phase of reopening things. And that is going like this, because you have to sort of have everything stop, calm down, and then you have to have that going for 14 days, and you can have a spike in cases. Otherwise, the 14-day number is reset. Okay, so after we get our numbers to go down, we can start a phase reopening for the whole state of California. And how that's gonna work out is things like factories and construction and stuff like that, they're gonna slowly begin to open back up. Things like the Tesla Fremont factory, yeah, I can't wait till that opens back up, because Tesla need to keep pumping them cars out, so they can keep beating those other auto manufacturers. But anyway, but yeah, so factories and construction, that's gonna pop back up. Now let's talk about construction here. Now, construction is one thing that hasn't slowed down and hasn't stopped in the city. I've noticed all throughout the city, they have definitely taken it. Now let's talk about construction here. Now, I noticed that construction has definitely not slowed down in the city. They have definitely taken advantage of this time where there is not a lot of traffic out on the roads. They're definitely taking advantage of this time to do a lot of construction. I've noticed a lot of construction in the roads that they're doing just because there's no traffic. I've just noticed that they're still building buildings, and they're still, constantly building buildings. Every morning I'm usually woken up by a construction truck or construction or something going on. I've noticed that right outside my window there's a parking lot, and there's lots of cars parked there, and most of the time there's lots of trucks parked in there, and they're construction workers. And I remember the first day of the lockdown, I said, I wonder how serious this lockdown is going to be. And the first thing I did was look outside that morning to see if the construction workers were there, and the construction workers were there. So this is going to open up in phases, construction jobs, manufacturing jobs where you really don't come into contact with many people. All right, after we're done with phase 1, we get to phase 2. Now, in phase 2 will be businesses that are more essential, but then also businesses that don't pose a very high risk. Now, what type of businesses am I talking about here? This could possibly mean lots of retail. We can see lots of retail pop up, because in retail, if they limit the amount of people that can go into the mall, and then in the mall, if they limited the amount of people that can go in the store, well, this would be limited risk. Now there's lots of social distancing, and there's less people going in at one particular time. I can also see other businesses open back up, like leasing offices, like here in San Francisco. When you want to move, most people go online and they find an apartment, or they find a condo that they want to check out, that they want to live, right? Well, right now you can still move, but you have to do a virtual tour. So you can't go and actually see the place that you're going to move into. You have to do a virtual tour. And some people are cool with that, but most people are not cool with that, especially if you're going to be paying, $3,000 a month, and 3,000 divided by 12, that's what, $36,000 a year. You're going to be paying $36,000 a year, and you can't even physically go inside the place. You have to sort of look at it blind. And it's not like it's not like it's under construction and it doesn't exist. No, it's like, it's because of social distancing. We have to, like, distance ourselves. So I would see, leasing businesses and, places where you show homes and stuff like that. I can see these businesses popping back up very, very soon, because usually when people are going to look at an apartment, usually it's just 1 or 2 people looking. It's not like 10 people. Now in San Francisco, certain neighborhoods, there are, certain apartments that'll pop up and there will be 10 people, there will be 15 people to go and check out that apartment. But I don't know, that's a different situation. Maybe they'll just do the whole 6 feet social distancing thing when they go look at apartments like that. Yeah. San Francisco relies on tourism a lot. And tourism is a big part of the industry here in San Francisco. A lot of people work in the hospitality and the tourist industry, from I guess you can say like Uber drivers to a certain extent, to hotel workers, to people that work in the Fisherman's Wharf area. If you work at a restaurant, you're basically working in the tourist area, in the tourist district. That whole area is very, very touristy. And what will Fisherman's Wharf look like? I imagine that it will be just a lot less people, like a lot less people. And what will tourism look like in San Francisco? I don't think it's going to come to a complete halt, because I don't think tourism will come to a complete halt anywhere. But I would imagine that large crowds, we won't be able to have large crowds. And it looks like we won't be able to have large crowds for like more than a year from now. So what that means, no large crowds, that means no church events. Not like San Francisco is very known for church events, but conferences, something that San Francisco is known for. It won't be any conferences, because conferences are large events. The whole nightclub scene, the whole underground scene. Maybe the underground scene will still survive, but the whole like nightclub scene, the going out, the drinking scene, I guess that scene is going to be gone. When we look at festivals, it's summertime's coming up, and oh my gosh, there's some pretty cool festivals going on in the city, and not just in the city, just throughout California. There's Coachella, there's Burning Man, and with social distancing in place, well, I guess we can't have festivals. So these are things that are going to take a big hit, and these are things that we are just going to have to say no to for now, unfortunately. So already we're starting to see that businesses are going to have to step up, and they're going to have to do things to make the workplace safer for their employees. Things like provide masks, provide gloves, provide hand sanitizer for workers, and as well as customers like shopping in a store. I've noticed in a lot of shops that you go to, like I was at Subway the other day and I ordered a sandwich, and after I paid with Apple Pay, because they totally prefer you to pay with Apple Pay now, because when you pay with Apple Pay, you touch your phone, but you don't necessarily have to touch your phone on the device. You can actually get your phone really, really close to the device, and it'll read it. So they would rather you pay with Apple Pay. And after I paid with Apple Pay, before the guy handed me the sandwich, he pulled out a big bottle of hand sanitizer and was like, if I need to use hand sanitizer. And this is something that I don't see. I don't think this is going to change. Like, I think this is going to be a big thing. Like, you're going to see hand sanitizer everywhere. It's just going to be a thing now. Me, personally, I'm not a big fan of hand sanitizer. I would rather go wash my hands with water, because I think hand sanitizer, like, it smells funny. It feels weird. It has this weird texture. It just, I don't know. I totally get it. You use hand sanitizer when you can't wash your hands, but I don't know, I'm just not really a big fan of hand sanitizer. It kind of reminds me of like lube, like lubrication, temperature checks. Yeah, I imagine temperature checks will be very, very common in the city. Now, I wouldn't imagine temperature checks will be everywhere. Certain places in the city, definitely to get in an office building downtown in the financial district, I imagine that you will possibly have to have your temperature check coming up very, very, very soon. And possibly to go to different places, maybe to like go to the airport. Maybe you have to have your temperature check, or possibly a COVID-19 test to even get on a flight. like an international flight, possibly. I don't know. We're speaking way out into the future here. But I would imagine that a lot of places, like certain restaurants and stuff like that, maybe you'll need to have your temperature check to enter. I'm totally okay with that. I'm totally cool with that. But the only thing about the temperature check that kind of creeped me out is it's almost like the mark of the beast, you know? It's almost like there's an invisible barcode on my forehead and you're scanning that barcode, and if my temperature is below like 100.4 degrees, you know, I'm good. So the barcode's working. The barcode works. It's scanning. I'm good to go. But then if my body temperature is above 100.4, that's like a like that. This is a creepy world we're living in. But yeah, I guess, yeah, I would imagine this is going to be very, very common in the future. I'm just curious what type of places will require temperature checks coming up very soon. I guess we'll just have to wait till this bad boy opens back up, because ain't nothing open up right now. It wouldn't surprise me if a lot of businesses begin to temperature check their employees just to make sure. I mean, this is just... it's just this new world we're living in. I mean, it's crazy. They've been literally temperature checking in places throughout the continent of Africa and throughout Asia for forever. I flew into South Africa like a year and a half ago, and the first thing they did when I got off the flight, literally the first thing they did, like as I'm walking out the jetway, and I like, you know, step foot into the building, there's someone there with a temperature, you know, a temperature gun, and they're checking my temperature. And at this point in time, I've never seen one of those in my life, and I was wondering, hey, what's that? And they said, oh, we're checking your temperature. Well, they're checking my temperature for yellow fever, but now, you know, it's for like COVID-19, yo. All right, guys, let's go ahead and talk about the depressing part of this video. Let's talk about restaurants, because oh my gosh, this is not looking good. It's not looking good. So restaurants. The problem with restaurants right now is with the whole social distancing in place, a lot of restaurants will have to reduce capacity. Reduce capacity from 100% maybe to like 50% or possibly to 25%. But the problem with that is restaurants in San Francisco are already small enough. Like they're already small and tight enough. Kind of like restaurants in New York. So when you reduce the number of seats in a restaurant, what that means is now that restaurant can't make as much money. Let's say you're the type of restaurant that you're relying on people to come to your restaurant, and you're relying on people to order things like an entree, an appetizer, and then a few drinks, right? And now you have 20 tables in your restaurant, and let's say that everybody comes to your restaurant and they order, you know, an appetizer, an entree, and they get like a few drinks. Okay, you got, you know, 40 tables in your restaurant. So now you're making money, right? But when you have to reduce that number from 40 to 20, this is going to cause a lot of friction in a lot of people's business, because they're going to be forced to do one of two things. They're going to have to drastically go up on their prices, meaning that a lot of customers are going to be like, yo, don't know if I want to go back to that restaurant, because remember, everybody has just been sitting at home cooking for the past couple of months. So when you go up on your prices, people are going to think, wow, maybe I don't want to go to that restaurant. But then on the flip side, there probably will be people that are still okay and still interested and still cool with paying a higher price, because now they know that they're safer at that restaurant, because maybe they're really, really afraid of catching the corona. So, I mean, this is something that we're gonna have to think about. Like, restaurants are gonna be very different. Could restaurants go to like a reservation system? I would imagine that in places like San Francisco, this could be the reality of restaurants for the ones that survive. Instead of waiting outside to get into a restaurant, maybe there's a reservation system where like you go to the app, you say, hey, I want a table for 2 at 6:30 on Friday night. And, you know, instead of you just going to the app and you just requesting the reservation, you go to the app and you pay for the reservation. It's $50 for the reservation, okay? And then once you get to the restaurant, then you have to pay for the food. So if you pay for the reservation and then you don't show up to the reservation, at least they still got the money for the reservation. So I could see restaurants being very, very different in the future, and restaurants being more of a privilege to go to. like much more of a privilege to go to. I would imagine that it's just going to be a more of a fancier thing. Before, like, everyone went to a restaurant, like everyone could go to a restaurant, but possibly we could see days where there's just fewer people going to a sit-down style restaurant and more people are just doing takeout. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the whole ghost kitchen concept, but I imagine that could be very popular very soon. But ghost kitchens, that's like a whole another video. Guys, also think about this scenario. When restaurants do open back up, how many people are just going to be in a rush to go and sit down in a restaurant when there is no cure for the COVID? And also, how many people are going to be in a rush to go to a restaurant when they have been laid off from their job? How many people out there are going to be nervous about going spending money when they don't know if they're going to lose their job? How many people out there are just going to be nervous about the economy and they've also been at home cooking and they've become a pretty decent cook now? How many people out there are just going to just be like, yo, I just want to cook at home and just save more money because I don't know when this is going to end. I don't know when this is just going to flare up in the future. Also, what about restaurant capacities? Are restaurants going to be at 20% capacity? Are they going to be at 50% capacity? Will they be at 70% capacity? This is going to vary. I imagine some restaurants are just going to thrive straight through this, and other restaurants are just going to burn. They're just going to go down like I don't know. They're just going to go down. I mean, there's just so many questions when it comes to restaurants when they reopen. Will customers have to wear masks? I mean, and then when do they wear a mask? When you drink from a straw, and most places are banning straws, at least in California. So I would imagine most places are not going to, they're not going to give you a straw. But when you have a mask on, I mean, how do you have a mask and, drink something? Like, how do you pull this one off? Like, I mean, and then are customers going to have to wear a mask? Are the servers, are they going to have to wear a mask? Like, this is just a really good question. I mean, this is 2020. This is the year we're living in, and this is the times we're living in. You got to wear a mask now. You don't forget when you walk out of the house, grab your keys, grab your wallet, grab your phone, and also grab your mask. It's an essential now. Now, one interesting thing I heard about New York, what could possibly happen in not just San Francisco, but this could possibly happen in a lot of places throughout the US and maybe throughout in other countries and throughout the world as well. But Mayor de Blasio basically pitched this whole idea of closing up to 100 miles of New York City streets, and they could use this for pedestrian walkway, and also restaurants could use part of the street to set up tables and stuff like that. This would be amazing if they did something like this in San Francisco, but the only problem I find with doing something like this in San Francisco is the weather. It can be very windy, and sitting outside like at 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, it's something you really just don't want to do in San Francisco because that's when the wind really picks up, and yeah, I can kind of see that being a problem. But however, I could see this working in a lot of other places throughout the country where you close off large sections of the street and you just have less people, less people driving and more people walking and more people riding a bike. This is something I've noticed quite a bit already. More and more people on bikes. I think that's just going to be a new thing in the future, this whole green wave. I mean, this is the whole start of it. Also in Oakland, there was a proposal where they closed off a handful of streets and they just banned cars and it's only pedestrian traffic. Here in San Francisco, they closed off a few streets. I really wish they closed off more. It's not like that there's a lot of traffic in a lot of the city anyway. I wish they would just ban cars and just have it bikes only, but we'll have to wait and see. Maximum occupancy rates is going to be one that's going to just be a bummer in 2020. It's already happening with the grocery stores because the grocery stores are basically the only thing open, but there's only X amount of people that can have in the store. For example, I go to the Target, I go to the Whole Foods, they can only have 50 people in the store. So what that means is you have to wait outside in line and it takes longer to get inside, and a quick trip that would normally take 10 minutes now could possibly take 30 minutes. this is just gonna be a new normal. It's just going to be a new normal, unfortunately. I've even noticed this a lot at smaller stores like 7-Eleven, for example. There's this 7-Eleven that I've noticed. They have a big sign up that says one person, like one person only, one person, and you have to wait outside. And that's totally cool. Like, I totally understand. Now, this could be something that I imagine could stay. Like this could be one of those things that could stay after there's a vaccine. Maybe they just have one person in the store. It's totally safer to have one person in the store. Like it's totally safe now. At least it's one-on-one, you know. It's a one-on-one service, and also that would cut down on theft and things like that. Another thing that will probably stay that has popped up since this whole Corona thing has started is you go in a lot of stores now and there's all this glass, or not glass, maybe it's plastic, plexiglass, but there's all this plastic, there's all this glass. They're even doing this at grocery stores like Whole Foods and Target, and where they just put this glass in between you and the person working there. And it's kind of weird because there's glass here and or plastic here, but then right on the other side is where you put your food items. Who knows what it's going to look like in the future? It's probably going to look like some of the buses in New York, where the bus driver is in like sort of this glass, this plastic box thing. Who knows? When you go to the grocery store, that might be how it is soon. There's like a little plastic box the person's working, and they're in a little plastic box, you know. Let's talk about social distancing and public transportation. Now, I've already mentioned bikes earlier and how I noticed that there's more and more people out on bikes. This is just my guess for San Francisco when it opens back up. There will be even more bikes, and more people will ride bikes. And the reason why I say this is San Francisco is a pretty small place, and Muni, the train system that San Francisco has, it has a bad reputation of just stopping. Like, you're on the train's totally packed, there's people all around you, and the train just randomly stops, and you're just wondering like what's going on. And the train stops and it's in a tunnel, so you have no cell phone service, and then you're just jam-packed and there's all these people around you, and then the train just waits there for like 10 minutes, you know. And then the train moves. It moves like 10 feet, and you're thinking, great, we're about to go. Great, I'm about to get off this train. And then it just stops for another 10 minutes. And then you're still in this tunnel, and you can't even like check your emails or anything, and you're just stuck, and there's all these people around you. And all those people around you, like, how can we maintain social distancing on trains? I would imagine a lot of people in the city are going to start riding bikes, or they're going to start riding some sort of electric vehicle. Maybe more and more people will request Ubers, just because they don't want to be around all the people on the train. I would imagine some companies may require their employees not to take public transportation because they don't want their employees around public transportation and then coming into the office. So it could be a requirement for some companies to say, look, do not take public transportation because they don't want you around. Now, the Google buses and the Facebook buses and these tech buses, what could happen with these buses? Now, if you live in the Bay Area, or if you live in San Francisco, especially the Mission District, you may notice that there's all these tech buses around, but now they're not around because none of these tech workers are going to the tech campuses that are down in, you know, the South Bay, Cupertino, Mountain View, San Jose, that area. So none of them are going to work because they're all just working from home in San Francisco. So will there be tech buses soon? I would imagine that there still will be tech buses, but it'll probably be like social distancing on tech buses. But I've never seen a full tech bus anyway, but I don't know. Why am I talking about tech buses here? But it's just something random I thought I would throw in here. No more large events, no more conferences, no more festivals. They even cancel Pride. You know it's for real then. You know how much money that brings to the city. It's all gone. It's all canceled. Now, tourist attractions, when will tourist attractions open back up? And more importantly, how will they open back up? Now, first off, I think museums will be the first to open back up. Now, the reason why I think museums will be the first to open back up, because museums, you can somewhat implement social distancing much easier than other businesses in the whole tourist industry genre. All right, so with museums, I would imagine that they could possibly open back up maybe in a different way, where like you request on an app. And maybe it's not necessarily a reservation process, but like maybe you pick your time and you show up. That way you don't have to wait in line, because waiting in line is just not cool. It's kind of lame, especially when we could like sort of have like a schedule system where like I come in at this time and then, you know, these other people come in at this time, and like they know that, okay, this amount of people are going to be in and we can only have X amount of people during this time. And I think a reservation system would be they would work a lot better than just having everyone just randomly show up and wait in long lines, and you have to wait 6 feet apart in line. And there could definitely be, like, I could see in the city, if we keep doing the line thing, it could just be lines like on top of lines, you know, like what restaurant is this line for? Oh, it's for this restaurant. Oh, it's for that restaurant. Because in the city, there'd be 5 restaurants like in one place, and if there's people waiting 6 feet apart outside of all these restaurants, like we got to we got to come up with a better way to deal with the whole line system. And when businesses open back up, I think it's definitely going to be like sort of a reservation system, especially with museums, if they are the first to open back up. This is just my 2 cents. This is just my thoughts here. I'm just throwing out here. Happy 2020. Guys, I love San Francisco, and this is our city, and this is what's going on, and I love it. I'm just going to stick through, and hopefully things go back to normal, or I guess things are never going back to normal, but hopefully things just change from this whole shelter in place, and yeah, we can just sort of move back around, and maybe not move back around like we once did, but just move with a different flow, with a different motion, just do something different than this whole lockdown, open up some of these businesses. But anyway, thought I would make a video. I know this video is kind of long. Like, comment, subscribe, and peace out, yo.